Hey, everybody's Drew Scooter. I make Sleep With Me podcast, and usually this is where I answer questions from Question Square. And this is more of like a PSA, I guess. I don't know. Like I've got some feedback, and I've processed it for a couple days, and it's a pretty common piece of feedback I get. And I just wanted to talk about how the majority of people listen to the podcast and put a reminder out there. Like Sleep With Me is supposed to sound free and easy and personalized. Um, but the way each listener experiences the show is not how all the listeners experience the show. So you may have a unique way you listen to the show or a unique experience with the show that is yours. And it's important to remember that that's important to me. But I also like am aware of like how a lot of different people's experiences for the show, and those things don't negate one another. But when you feel very strongly about how you experience the show, um, I guess it doesn't. I guess it's like this isn't really a useful reminder. I'm like, why am I filming this? But I guess it's interesting. On the extremes, it probably doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying, because I always get like usually a couple times a week some extreme versions of this is how I experience the show and want to experience the show, and people are feeling very intensely about it. So I just wanted to talk about how do the majority of people experience Sleep With Me? By a vast majority, a very large number actually of people, and because I do have to keep that in mind, and that's like how all of the structure of the show is designed around. But because of stuff like subscriptions, we've been able to like take all the feedback I get of how people like to experience the show and offer those in places we just couldn't do, that just would not work the way the majority of people consume the show. So the way the majority of people consume the show is and this is their preference, believe it or not. Like, so the majority of people prefer to consume an ad-supported version of Sleep With Me in sequentially. And like, if you even want to break down a tiny bit of difference, like they experience it linearly. Majority of people linearly listen for about 60 minutes, and then the next like submajority listen for 40 or till the episode ends probably, and then 45 minutes. And that's how most people experience the show. But there's a lot that's just how the majority of people experience the show and prefer to listen to it. But that doesn't mean there's not wrong, that's right or wrong. It's just like, as a person who makes the show, I have to, it's like a kind of like a short order cook at breakfast time. And then somebody's like, hey, I want this lunch or item, and then I want this dinner item. It's like, oh, okay. Majority of the griddle's dedicated to these breakfast items that I'm making in bulk, but also I'll put these orders on here too. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but it's just like a piece of feedback I get. And then also, like, if you do something outside of Sleep With Me, like you make something or whatever, like how it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how, like, what works for Sleep With Me. But just the majority of people listen to the ad-supported free show because that's what works best for them. And that's how we've always structured the show, with that in mind. And just like I talk about in the intro, the majority of people listen to the show and they listen to the intro to wind down or to get comfortable. Then they listen to the story, and that's how they prefer to listen to it. But then we've been able to develop over the years, like there's some people that only want to listen to intros. There's people that only want to listen to stories. There's people that don't prefer an ad-free version. There's people that listen all night long, and then kind of an ad-free version is usually better for that. There's people that only like certain kind of stories. There's people that love Ray. There's people that like on-location episodes, or catalogs or other things that would just work in the main feed, because it would become too repetitive. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, just because, I mean, I totally understand people that have very strong feelings and they take the podcast and they're like, oh, this is my experience, so everyone must be having the same experience. And I'm not trying to negate anything or anything like that. It's like, It's just a reminder, like, I mean, a softer version of it is, or more understandable, or more that fits the majority offices or audience, is, now that I'm supposed to wrap this up already, is that there's a couple things. I might as well talk about it. Like, these are cool things to know. I never would have known it until I made stuff. One, most people's favorite era of Sleep With Me is when they first discovered the show and started listening on a regular basis. So if we polled everybody, their favorite era, and Sleep With Me would have been best for the majority of people when they first started listening to the show. And I found, talking to other people that make podcasts and other music and other things, that translates across most genres. Not everybody, but most people love a thing in the era they discovered it the best. Not everyone, again, but a lot of people have that experience. So that's one thing I would have never known. And then I even thought it was unique to Sleep With Me, because I'd get feedback from people telling me how much they disliked new eras of Sleep With Me. And I'd be like, I didn't even know the show changed from whatever 720 to 780. But yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing is like people's fandoms with Sleep With Me falls on whatever is most popular is also has the strongest number of people that it doesn't work for. Ray is by far the most popular character, the most popular style of episode, other than all intros, by far. But Ray also has a large contingent of people that will never listen to Ray and have strong feelings about Ray. The same goes for like Fearless Flyer episodes or Real Time Recipe episodes or Star Trek TNG. That's one that falls way on the outs of both ends. I thought Doctor Who would, but Doctor Who kind of falls more in the middle. And that's just, again, most shows fall in the middle, where most people are just experiencing the show and they're unwinding and putting them to sleep. But then we also have three styles of shows that we alternate with all this in mind. One, it's always something a little bit different than the episode before it, but there's a consistency and it comes back around. Two, if you're not just listening linearly, like you could skip an episode and know that the next episode that comes out will be different than the one that came out, because we put out TV recap style episodes, which could be stylistically not a TV recap, but stylized. We do TV recap episodes. Those could be movies or retrospectives. We do one-off random stories, which could be in anything. Potpourri. I call them trending Tuesday style episodes, because they used to always come out on Tuesdays. But those could be a story about anything. It could be a personal essay. It could be like a memory, me trying to remember a plot of a movie. It could be a made-up story. It could be something anywhere in between. It could be me cooking. It could be me going for a walk. And then we have our written episodically modular series. And then I guess they go in a circle, so it's not in any order. They just alternate between the three. And then sometimes we'll throw in a repeat or all intro episode or stuff like that. So I don't know. So I thought there was three things. Ray, everybody's a fan of Ray. Everybody's first era. Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is a lot of people listen a lot of different ways beyond the way the majority of people listen. So again, it doesn't change. It's always like when I'm thinking about bonus content or what we can offer as a subscription, that's when I'm thinking about it. Because there's a lot, I mean, one of the things in the challenges of the show is people that listen all night long, because that's just a challenge, because the ad-supported version, not only is it not the best experience if you're listening to all night long, we have direct response advertisers. So it's not a mass market messaging where they're not watching if someone's listening. If someone sleeps through all their spots, they're like, whoa, what are we paying for, basically? So all night listeners are one of those people that it just does works way better that we offer all those episodes as a subscription, or the story only shows. I don't know what the point was in there, but anyway, I kind of wanted to use it as a positive, because it was really when I get these emails, they don't tend to feel positive. I'll be honest. But I look at it and it's like, oh, I can see where this person's coming from. Sleep With Me is supposed to sound free and easy, absolutely no work goes into it. And to achieve that sound, it takes an incredible amount of work. And two, it's supposed to feel very personal and personalized. uh, because it is in a sense, but it's in a sense with like a reasonable amount of boundaries and stuff like that. But the experience is that it's very personal and personalized, and so I can see how that could fall into some extreme dissonance for people, that it kind of feels like, hey, this guy's making this podcast just for me for free. Um, so now, and I have very high expectations for him and very high standards for him, and now I'm going to let him know about it. I mean, I'm smiling because it does like really hurt, but I can also see where the people are coming from, um, and it's just one of these things you learn when you're making a sleep podcast. Like, wow, I never knew, and I've gotten better at saying, hey, like, I mean, a lot of times I'm not able to respond to those emails because of the boundaries I've set, which now we're on another tangent. I'm supposed to be leaving 10 minutes ago, but this is a powerful tangent you can use on the internet, and it's or powerful tool I've found is a grocery store rule. I've talked about it in other places. Like if I wouldn't be comfortable with someone saying something to me in a grocery store, I delete the comment, or I like won't respond to the comment or email. Because I'm like, if someone was to say the same comment to me in a grocery store, how would I react? Like if it was about my groceries, if they came up to me and started talking about the podcasts, it would probably be positive, but maybe it wouldn't be. But I'd say like if someone's gonna, oh hey, by the way, did you know that those same watermelons, I tried this other version and it tastes absolutely delicious. Just when I saw the local watermelon in your thing, and they have the orange and the yellow ones like in another section of the store if you want to check it out. Be like, okay, cool. But if someone was like using a different thing and telling me something else, I would either walk away or ignore them, or like establish other sets of boundaries. And so I kind of do that with the podcast now. I've learned it over the years. Like people say, have a thick skin, or oh, get over it, or what, it's not supposed to hurt, or whatever, counteract it with all the positive. And it's like, no, like I guess looking at it like, hey, how would you feel if someone said this to you in the grocery store about your groceries? Like you're doing it wrong, or what are you going to eat that? Like you shouldn't be eating that. Like blah blah. Like it's like, I'm sorry. And another thing is it helps with the mindset, because it's like deep down I say, wow, you must. I'm going to say no and I'm going to walk away. But after the interaction, normally I'm like, wow, like that person was explaining to me how lean cuisine is not lean and it's mean cuisine and all this stuff. And I really feel bad for them, because this is not an appropriate place to have that discussion. So there must be really something hard going on with them. And I hope everything's okay, but I still need to have my boundaries with it too. I don't know how we got here. Holy cow. From like the idea that everybody has a preference. Like I do keep that in mind when I make the show. But it's like to remember that not everybody there's definitely, whatever your preference is for Sleep With Me, there's people that share that preference, but not everybody shares that preference. Because that's kind of where the outrage comes from, that I've seen, is just like, hey, like everybody must share this preference and they must feel the same way and as strongly as me, just like the lean cuisine person might. And you say, hey, like, I'm sorry, like I'm just grocery shopping here. Like I'm just trying to get my groceries. And it's kind of like what I'm saying with this video is like, hey, I've got that in mind. Like it's a different relationship. I know that there's it's slightly different than the grocery store relationship, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I'm doing the best I can to make this podcast puts people to sleep. I know everybody has a different preference, and I'm really aware of all almost all of the preferences. I'm trying to figure it out. And yeah, if you have that preference, the best way to adjust it is, unfortunately, like it would be to pay a paid subscription. And the good news is, as we move on into the 10 years of the show, like it's like, oh, at least I'm trying to find a way to be like, hey, like, or you could go out and promote the show, like in your like in your interpersonal reactions. If you do refer some listeners, we could probably work something out if you're looking for an ad-free experience or whatever like that. So anyway, I don't know. That was longer than I expected. I'll have to rewatch this video, but I think it like gets to the heart of the matter. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. And I mean, it really comes back to that care. And I also had practice self-care. So anyway, thanks everybody.